The late morning sun streamed through the tall windows of the White House, casting golden streaks across the Oval Office. President Donald Trump, now in his second term, sat behind the resolute desk, his red tie perfectly knotted and a small American flag pin gleaming on his navy suit jacket. On his right wrist, a subtle silver bracelet with a tiny cross charm caught the light, a personal token of faith he'd worn since his re-election campaign. At 78 years old, Trump was as fiery as ever, his energy undimmed and his voice still carrying the commanding tone that defined his political career. His phone buzzed with a call from his chief of staff. "Sir, there's a situation at the D.C. District Court, a case about religious freedom. Veterans were barred from holding a prayer event at a public monument. You wanted to monitor it closely. They're expecting you to send someone." But the voice hesitated. "They didn't expect you to go yourself." And Trump leaned back, in his chair, a smirk playing on his lips. "I'm not sending anyone, I'll go myself. These people need to see. Their president was fighting for them. Religious freedom, and to him it was huge. The best, I've always said it, and I'll show them. Nobody fights for Christians like I do, believe me," Trump said before hanging up, adjusting his cufflinks and standing, his silver bracelet glinting in the light. His second term had been a whirlwind of tightened border security, booming economic policies, and an unyielding defense of conservative values, with religious liberty front and center. He often warned at rallies about the radical left trying to erase God from America, and today he was taking that battle to the courtroom himself. Before we dive into this powerful story, drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from and make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an update from this channel. Trump exited the White House, Secret Service agents close behind as he climbed into the armored black SUV known as the Beast. The drive to the D.C. District Court was fast, with Washington streets alive with midday traffic. Inside the courthouse, the atmosphere was tense. The small room packed with reporters, citizens, and lawyers squeezed tightly onto the wooden benches. The case Trump came to witness involved veterans banned from praying at a public monument, a cause he had publicly championed. As he strode in, his presence commanded silence, whispers sweeping through the room as heads turned. "That's the president," someone murmured. Trump took a front row seat, his Secret Service agent standing quietly nearby, while his silver bracelet shimmered faintly under the fluorescent lights, barely noticed by most. The courtroom was a mix of tension and calm. A young man in a hoodie reading "Freedom First" scrolled on his phone a few seats away, while an older woman with a large star-shaped pendant whispered to her friend. Trump scanned the room carefully, his sharp eyes noting every detail, then leaned toward his aide and said, "This is a big deal. These veterans, they're heroes. They fought for this country, and now they can't pray? Disgraceful. We're fixing this." His voice was low but firm, echoing the same resolve from countless campaign speeches. Suddenly, the wooden door behind the bench creaked open and Judge Theodore Langston stepped out. At 58, he was known for his strict, no-nonsense style, his graying hair neatly combed, black robe spotless, and expression cold as he surveyed the packed courtroom. "All rise. Order," barked the bailiff, a stocky man named Robert Carter, as the crowd stood, Trump included, his posture straight and commanding. Judge Langston took his seat, scanning the room before banging his gavel. "This is a court of law, not a circus. I expect order," he snapped, diving into minor cases with ruthless precision. A traffic fine upheld, a small business dispute closed with a stern warning. Trump sat with arms crossed, the silver bracelet on his wrist occasionally catching the light. He leaned toward his aide and whispered, "He's tough, but let's see how he handles the veterans. That's what I'm here for." Then Langston's eyes locked onto Trump. He paused mid-sentence, the papers in his hand frozen, as his stern expression turned even colder. Everyone knew who Trump was, but Langston's gaze didn't fix on his face. It zeroed in on his wrist. "Mr. President," he said, his voice slicing through the silence, "that bracelet you're wearing, the cross on it, this is a neutral courtroom. Religious symbols are not permitted here." A collective gasp swept through the crowd, murmurs rising. Trump's eyebrows shot up, his lips curling into a mix of smirk and scowl. He stood slowly, buttoning his suit jacket as his presence filled the room. "Excuse me, Judge," he began, "but I'm the President of the United States," he said, his voice booming, "and this is my bracelet. It's a beautiful bracelet, by the way. The best. I've worn it everywhere. Rallies, the White House, everywhere. It's my faith. My right. First Amendment. Ever heard of it?" Langston's jaw tightened, his knuckles whitening around. The gavel. "This isn't a rally, Mr. President. This is my courtroom, and I set the rules. That cross disrupts the neutrality of this space," he said, pointing at Trump's wrist. "Remove it now or I'll hold you in contempt." The crowd fell dead silent, tension thick in the air. Bailiff Robert Carter shifted uncomfortably, glancing between Trump and the judge. The young man in the Freedom First hoodie leaned toward his neighbor and whispered, "He didn't say anything about my shirt." The woman with the star-shaped pendant clutched it nervously, unnoticed by Langston. Trump didn't remove the bracelet. Instead, he stepped forward, his Secret Service detail tensing but holding position. "Let me tell you something, Judge," Trump said, his voice rising. "I've dealt with plenty of people trying to tell me what to do, Crooked Hillary, Sleepy Joe, the fake news media. They all tried. They all failed. I'm here for the veterans, for their right to pray. And you're telling me I can't wear my bracelet? That's a disgrace. A total disgrace." He gestured broadly, his hand slicing through the air in that unmistakable style familiar to anyone who'd seen his rallies. "The First Amendment says I can wear this. You don't get to make up your own rules." Langston slammed his gavel, the sharp crack echoing. "Mr. President, I won't have you turning my courtroom into a spectacle. You're in contempt. I'm fining you $1,000, payable today." The crowd gasped, a reporter in the back furiously typing on her phone. Bailiff Robert Carter moved closer to the bench, visibly tense, while the court clerk, a gray-haired woman named Evelyn Brooks, froze mid-keystroke, her eyes wide. Trump's face tightened, but his signature smirk held. $1,000? That's nothing, I've got billions. But this isn't about money, it's about principle. You're attacking my faith, and the faith of millions of Americans. You think you can do that? You're wrong, so wrong. He turned to the crowd, voice rising. "Look at this, folks. I show up to support our veterans, and this judge, appointed by who I'd love to know, tries to silence me. Not going to happen." He pointed toward the young man in the hoodie. "His shirt says Freedom First. No fine." Then he gestured to the woman with the star pendant. "Her necklace is bigger than my bracelet, but this?" He held up his wrist. "This cross is the problem. This is bias, total bias." The crowd murmured in agreement, some nodding, others pulling out their phones despite the courtroom's no recording rule. Langston's face flushed, his grip on composure slipping. "Mr. President, you're out of line. This isn't about bias, it's about maintaining order. That cross is a religious symbol and it doesn't belong here." Trump cut him off, his voice booming. "Order? You want to talk about order? I brought order to this country. Best economy, best military, best everything. And I'm not taking off my bracelet because you don't like it." He pulled out his phone, holding it high. "You know what? I'm recording this. Every word. The American people deserve to see what's happening here." The crowd stirred louder, a man in the back shouting, "He's right." Evelyn Brooks, the clerk, resumed typing, her fingers trembling. Bailiff Robert Carter crossed his arms, the hint of a smirk playing on his lips. He'd never seen anyone stand up to Langston like this. The judge slammed his gavel again. "Mr. President, you will not record in my courtroom. That's a violation of court rules. I'm increasing the fine to $2,000. Trump let out a deep, hearty laugh that filled the room. $2,000? Keep going, Judge. Make it $1 million. I'll pay it and I'll still win. Because I always win, and you're messing with the wrong guy." He stepped closer to the bench, eyes narrowing. "You know what? I think you don't like Christians. That's what this is really about. I've seen it before. Radical left judges trying to erase our values, but I'm not just anyone. I'm Donald J. Trump and I fight back. You want to fine me? Fine. But this is going viral. The people will decide who's right." He turned to his aide. "Get this on Truth Social right now. Let the people know." The aide nodded, already typing furiously. Langston's hand shook as he gripped his gavel, his authority slipping. "Mr. President, you will sit down and comply or I'll have you removed." Trump raised an eyebrow, his smirk widening. "Removed? You're going to remove the President of the United States? Good luck with that." He gestured to his secret. Service agents standing like statues, their faces unreadable. The crowd was tense, some filming despite the rules, others whispering rapidly. The young man in the hoodie posted on X, "President Trump just got fined $2,000 for a cross bracelet. In court. This judge is done. Sugar's cross bracelet clash." Trump didn't sit. Instead, he leaned on the bench, voice lowering but still powerful. "Here's what's going to happen, Judge. I'm not taking off my bracelet. I'll pay your little fine because I can. But this isn't over. I've got the best lawyers, the best team, and the best supporters," Trump declared firmly. "We're going to investigate every case you've ever handled, every fine, every ruling. If you've been targeting Christians or anyone else, we'll find out, and I'll make sure the whole country knows." Langston opened his mouth to respond, but Trump raised a hand. "I'm not done. You think you're above the law? You're not. I've dealt with judges like you before. During my first term, they tried to block my travel ban, my wall, everything. They failed. I won. I always win, and I'm going to win this too. You just made a big mistake, Judge Langston. A huge mistake." He straightened up, adjusting his tie, the bracelet on his wrist gleaming defiantly. The crowd erupted into applause, some shouting, "Trump, Trump." Langston banged his gavel repeatedly, but the noise drowned him out. Trump turned to leave, his Secret Service clearing a path. At the door, he paused and looked back. "You'll be hearing from me, Judge, and from the American people. Believe me." He walked out, the crowd buzzing, the hashtag Char cross bracelet clash already trending on X with thousands of posts. Evelyn Brooks typed faster than ever, documenting every word, while Robert Carter shook his head, muttering, "He picked the wrong fight." Trump sat back in the beast, phone in hand. Scrolling through Truth Social, Trump saw his post had already gone viral. "Radical Judge Langston tried to fine me $2,000 for my cross bracelet in court today. A total disgrace. I'm fighting for your religious freedom, America. We won't let them win." Cross bracelet clash. The post racked up over 100,000 shares in under 30 minutes. Fox News ran a breaking story. President Trump fined in court for cross bracelet, vows to fight back. Trump grinned and turned to his aide. "This is big, bigger than I thought. We're going to make an example out of this judge. Nobody messes with me or with Christians. Nobody." Meanwhile, back at the courthouse, Langston sat in his chambers, hands trembling as the news unfolded. His phone rang nonstop, reporters, the D.C. Judicial Council, even colleagues, but he silenced it and stared out at the empty courtroom. "He's just a showman," he muttered, though his voice lacked conviction. He knew he'd crossed a line, and Trump isn't the type to let it go. Evelyn Brooks, still at her desk, called a friend at a local news outlet. "I've seen Langston target religious symbols before," she whispered. "Crosses, prayer, beads. He always gets harsher. I've got records. This needs to get out." Robert Carter met a colleague in the break room, voice low. "He's been doing this for years. Trump's right. He's biased. I saw him fine a guy $500 for a cross necklace last month, but ignore a guy in a vulgar shirt. It's not right." By evening, the story exploded. Cross bracelet clash hit 500,000 mentions on X, people sharing and debating across the country. Users shared their own stories online. "Langston fined me $300 for a prayer charm last year," one posted. Another wrote, "He yelled at my dad for wearing a cross in court. Trump's right, he's biased." A viral video surfaced showing Trump's courtroom confrontation, his voice ringing out as he held up his phone to record it. The clip hitting 2 million views in hours. Watching the chaos unfold in the Oval Office, Trump called his senior advisor. "This is a win, a big win. Push this hard. Get me a press conference tomorrow. We'll show the country what we're fighting for." The next morning, the D.C. Judicial Council launched an urgent investigation into Langston's rulings, led By veteran investigator Paul Reynolds, they uncovered a pattern. 70% of Langston's fines for dress code violations targeted religious symbols, with Christians hit hardest, fines ranging from $200 to $500, double the average for other offenses. Evelyn Brooks provided records showing years of bias, and Robert Carter submitted a statement. I've seen Langston target religious symbols at least 50 times in 5 years, ignoring everything else. By noon, the council suspended Langston, pending a full review. X exploded again with the news. Judge Langston suspended after Trump's courtroom clash, cross bracelet clash. That evening, Trump stood at the White House podium, the cross bracelet still shining on his wrist, camera flashes lighting the room. Yesterday, a radical judge tried to silence me. Tried to silence your president, he said, voice booming. He fined me for this bracelet, my faith, your faith. But I fought back because that's what I do, I fight for you. We're not going to let them erase our values. Religious freedom is the best, and we're keeping it, believe me. The ow. Crowd cheered, holding signs with door and cross bracelet clash. Reporters shouted questions, but Trump waved them off. We're winning, folks, we always win. Langston watched the press conference from home, his career in ruins. The Judicial Council demanded an explanation, and facing the growing evidence, he resigned the next day, agreeing to mandatory bias training. I didn't see it, he said quietly. Trump made me see it. The impact spread nationwide. States, like Texas and Florida, reviewed court rules, and people posted photos of their religious symbols with captions like, "My faith, my right." Thank you, President Trump. Trump framed the $2,000 fine receipt in gold in the Oval Office as a symbol of victory, telling his team, "We did it. Religious freedom is safe because of me. The best president." 3 months later, Trump stood before 10,000 in Ohio, waving the bracelet, saying, "They tried to stop me, they tried to stop you, but we won. We always win." The bracelet became a viral symbol dubbed Trump's badge of faith. In D.C., the courthouse added a plaque honoring all beliefs, and Evelyn Brooks and Robert Carter led efforts for transparency to prevent bias like Langston's. Trump's stand reshaped the system, proving one man's belief can change a nation. That's how President Donald Trump turned a courtroom fine into a movement for religious freedom. What did you think? Let me know in the comments.